Anywhere, anytime, ordinary people are given the chance to choose. The choice is the same. Freedom, not tyranny. Democracy, not dictatorship. The rule of law, not the rule of the secret police. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is the rule of law and the current state of affairs in Sri Lanka. You too can join in as far as the conversation is concerned. The number to SMS your messages is 076-656-5353. The number once again, 076-656-5353. We would be glad to take your questions to our elite panelists today on the show. Joining us this evening on the show are Attorney at Law Sirasa Laktilaka, Attorney at Law James Vijay Bandara, Attorney at Law Tharak Nanaikara, as well as Attorney at Law Javid Yusuf. All joining me on the show tonight to pose questions from our panelists. On the immediate left is Niresh Thambi, Consultant English News Director at Newsfirst. So let's get the ball rolling today with Attorney at Law Sirasa Laktilaka on our topic tonight, the rule of law and the current state of affairs in Sri Lanka. Your time starts now.
Yeah, when it comes to rule of law, we have passed through several decades on this issue, but what we see through various operations started by the state, that still we have not understood properly what does the meaning of the rule of law in order to protect the aspirations of the citizens. Now, if you take one good example from this present ongoing Operation Yuktiya, now nobody wants to scuttle or deny that government's right to start a campaign against mafia type underworld activities or eradication of drugs or removing various illicit trade in this country. But when it comes to operational goal of such a campaign, on the same time we have to acknowledge that the rights of the people or rights of the accused, rule of law, presumption of innocence, then fair trial, all these concepts have come to the fore to protect and balance the operational aspect of such a program. But what we can see now through this particular operation, lot of excesses have been happened, and society, the media, and the professionals in this country, as well as political society, are silent over the excesses of these the excesses happening through this operation. No, that's very alarming situation. And when it comes to 2 or 3 incidents, look at what happened in Dehiwala incident, demolition of a hotel under the guise of Operation Yuktiya, or else what we are seeing yesterday, a massacre or assassination of 5 people while they were traveling in the daylight, or the killing of a priest. All these things are happening as a result of excesses of this operation, according to my mind. So how it happens, that is the most important thing. When you have an operation without a balancing act of rule of law, then you can find anarchy in the society. So then various elements in the society will take use of that opportunity and go against the rule of law. This is what we are seeing. So when it comes to this kind of situation, we have seen the Bar Association has issued a statement about intimidation of lawyers. Then we have seen that Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission has issued a statement. Then finally the UN Human Rights Commission also issued a statement. But unfortunately, our government is now in a stoic silence and allowing this happen without any checks and balances. So that is the issue what we have to surface at this moment. Nobody will go against the campaign against or eradication of drugs or illicit liquor or whatever, or mafia type underground work. But on the same time, we have to emphasize that criminal justice has to be balanced through a right of accused also. Now, what we have seen in the last, I think, 1 month, police going into homes without a warrant, there is no magisterial interference into those searches. Then arrests have been done, and we don't know what happened to those 20,000 odd people.
Right.
So it's a very serious situation, and unfortunately, the society is not moved by this kind of situation.
Shiral, you said you spoke about during the last 40 hours, 6 people were killed in broad daylight, 5 people in Biliata, which really raised the eyebrows of many with regard to how well that shooting took place in the eyes of anyone who saw what exactly happened. Right now, there is a Yuktiya program that is being rolled out at a time when such a comprehensive or island-wide campaign is launched. Are you not alarmed that 6 people have been killed within 48 hours by gunmen?
Not only I am alarmed not only by that incident, which is 5 people killed. Now all over the country, killings are happening, illegal killings. Arbitrary arrests are happening, which are not happening in accordance to the rule of law. So now even you take this incident of Tangala, or killing of that priest in somewhere in Gampaha, or previously one young fellow was killed by STF. All over the country, these kind of things are happening under the guise of this Yukti operation. That is an alarming situation.
Right. Thank you very much, Attorney Shiral Lakhte. We'll, of course, delve more deeper on the subject tonight. But very quickly, if I may ask you, Shiral, today we saw the online safety bill being passed in Parliament. Do you want to add anything to what exactly happened in Parliament?
No, I mean, my personal position is that when we are working towards establishing a digital economy, putting barriers to digital communication is not appropriate.
Right.
That is in simply what I have to say.
Right. Thank you very much. I now move my attention towards Attorney at Law James J. Bandara.
Now, rule of law has many facets. One is all are equal before the law. For any government to be satisfied that there is a rule of law, all organs of government must obey the law. There are rules for governance as well as rules for subjects to be governed equally. Now, what is lacking in this country and the root cause of all these problems which Shiral explained about Yuktiya operation, we lack the basic rules of governance in this country. You just mentioned about online safety bill. There is a constitutional safeguard with regard to passing a bill in Parliament. Parliament also bound by law. There are 3 organs of government: judiciary, executive and legislature. Now, parliamentary proceedings cannot be questioned before any court of law. That is a constitutional convention. Then Parliament has a noble duty to follow the law, respect the people's democratic rights. That is why Constitution provides any bills to be passed must be gazetted before it is being tabled in Parliament 14 days prior to. And then that will allow citizens and civil rights movements, any political parties or any interested parties to go through that and ensure the transparency, go through that and challenge it before the Supreme Court. Now what's happened in this instance? It was challenged. Then Supreme Court has to hurriedly determine it within 2-3 days and report to the, that is the constitutional provisions I am saying, to the speaker. On the very first day of hearing, Attorney General came up with 30 or more amendments to that. They were not published. They were not gazetted. And then those were incorporated and Supreme Court made their determination to the gazette that was published on 15th of September 2023. And then it was taken up recently, day before yesterday also, in the Parliament. And their Parliament also has its own procedure to ensure that everything has to be taken place in transparent manner. But what happened? There is a sectoral oversight committee. Within a day, hurriedly, and one-page report, President Council Sumandrian MP, he has raised this before the Parliament, but nobody cared. Parliament didn't obey the law. Then they introduced another set of amendments at the committee stage. And we heard that when we witnessed the proceedings, that has gone beyond what was proposed, what was directed by the Supreme Court. Up to now, nobody knows what has happened. Is it the procedure, is it the duty of the Parliament, democratically elected, to conduct in this manner? So Parliament shows not exemplary governance. Parliament also shows within their parameters underworld type of behavior. When somebody says that we need a vote, the speaker says now it is passed, it is over. When the opposition leader says don't do this hurriedly, party leaders meeting was convened, that was disregarded. What is the meaning of democracy? Democracy, does it mean the party who is having majority can do anything according to their women fancy? That is not the meaning of the democracy. So what is being practiced in Sri Lanka during, especially after Aragalaya, there is a parliament whom had been rejected by the people. They are doing everything according to their women fancy. Can we expect society to behave according to law and order?
Right. So, because we're talking about the current state of affairs also, Mr. Vijay Bandara, we all know that you are very well connected with the NPP. We saw recently the NPP voicing their concern with regard to legalizing prostitution in the country. This statement was made by NPP's Executive Committee member Samanmali Gunasinghe. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, that was clearly explained by the General Secretary of the party subsequently. That initial story, not the policy of the party, that was clearly explained and that was duly published. I think that would have been answered. So initially statement was not correct.
That's not a correct statement.
And then we had a press conference and that was clearly explained by the General Secretary of the party.
Then not paying international sovereign bond holders was also a view expressed by one of your strongmen in the party as well. And that was countered by SJB economist Harsh De Silva, saying that's not the way in which you can move in the modern day and age. And the NPP is now looking at engaging with the IMF also. In a situation like that, how do you view this statement that was made, not paying the ISP, international sovereign bond holders?
Of course, I am not an economic expert at the NPP. I am a lawyer, and also what I can assure you that we are trying to set up exemplary governance. In it, we will have international relationship. We are not going to be isolated from international community or relationship. Economic policy is concerned, you have to ask that question from economic expert of our party.
So very quickly, Mr. Vijay Bandara, a lot of people accuse the NPP of not having a clear-cut policy when it comes to reform. You all have slogans, you all have the rhetoric, you all speak about corruption, so on and so forth. But what is lacking in the NPP is not having clear-cut policies to combat corruption or to combat the way in which we move forward. Now, just saying bringing back stolen money to the country is not good enough. How you do it has to be articulated. But these policies have not been articulated well by the NPP yet, being an election year.
You know, the laws are there. There are sufficient laws. What is you are crying and we all crying here is that laws are not being implemented. It's a major question, concern that entire country is facing. There are enough laws, but those laws are not being implemented. So then if you ask what is my policy, policy is to implement the law, existing law, without allowing it to be bent.
Right. So when you speak about law, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution is also a piece of legislation. What is the view of the NPP on
13th Amendment, as far as this Constitution is in existence, if we come into power, so we have to govern under this Constitution for a certain time. So it will be obeyed. It will be obeyed. And if you want to, yes, and if you want to,
no political party has done that so far. Despite the fact 13th Amendment to the Constitution has been in play, we saw the manner in which how Ranil Wickremesinghe also initially said that the 13th Amendment is a piece of legislation and hence it will be implemented. It was not implemented. So you are saying if the NPP comes into power, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution will be implemented in full?
No. After the introduction of the 13th Amendment, now...
No, my question is very simple, Mr. Jima.
Yes.
Are you all going to implement the 13th Amendment to the Constitution in full if you all are appointed to government?
That has to be negotiated with the parties are concerned, and then we have to find a solution to that, right?
So you all don't have
we cannot have our own solution to that.
But
so
you all don't have a policy on that yet.
We hadn't had any opportunity to have a dialogue with the parties are concerned.
I'm asking you this question because you said there are ample laws in Sri Lanka to nab those who are corrupt. But when it comes to the Constitution, will you all respect the 13th Amendment to the Constitution? Because at the end of the day, the minority people's aspirations are also very important.
Once we are placed in governance, we have to address the concern of minority.
Why do you always hear from the NPP when we are placed in government?
Yeah, I mean,
but why don't you have a policy beforehand? Why don't you have a clear-cut roadmap as to what you all will do when you are appointed to power?
Initially, our policy in that regard, let me elaborate further. Now, as far as the 13th Amendment is concerned, yes, there is a problem. First problem is the Northeast people or Southern people, they have to live as respectable citizens of this country. First thing we are going to ensure that part.
Right.
Right? Sand corruption, respecting their democratic rights, we ensure first the good governance system. Thereafter, we are open for negotiation with them. Then only we can find the solution.
Right. So I will get back to all this, Mr. Vijay momentarily as we move along. Let me quickly move to Attorney at Law Tharak Nanakara. What are your thoughts, Tharak, on our topic tonight?
Samir, now rule of law and law and order are two intertwined topics, particularly the equal protection before the law and equality before the law is a venerated sacred concept which is enshrined in Article 12.1 of our Constitution. However, now we spoke of the online safety bill which became an act of parliament today. After the speaker's assent, it will become a law, but it has formally been passed. But there's a grave concern which we are not privy to, but according to the proceedings of Parliament today telecasted on your Newsfirst news, it's very disturbing for the reason that there was a opportunity for the general public to challenge this online safety bill, which was duly challenged, and the Supreme Court determined that certain amendments had to be brought, and the Attorney General undertook to incorporate those amendments. But the allegation today is Honorable Sumandiran MP, President's Counsel, raised a very vital issue in Parliament that those amendments are not incorporated, and matters that have not been in the original bill nor in the proposed amendments have been incorporated in the committee stage, which cuts across the amendments that have been proposed by the special determination of the Supreme Court. This is a very alarming situation. This is a very bad practice if it has happened, because once it becomes a law, once it's voted in Parliament, we all know there is no judicial review of legislation in Sri Lanka. In India there is, but in Sri Lanka there is not. And the last opportunity for a concerned member of the general public or activist to challenge a particular provision of would-be law is to challenge it in the Supreme Court by way of a special determination. So that right has been traversed. As Mr. Vijay pointed out, the sanctity of the Constitution is largely dependent on the separation of powers, the executive, the legislature and the judiciary. And if this has happened, this is a very bad example, and the price we would pay in the future as a nation would be very heavy. And moving on to the general concept of rule of law, it has been widely discussed and criticized that in Sri Lanka, rule of law does not have its place. Rule of law is that the law is above everyone else and everyone else is under the law. But you see, even the laws that are promulgated by the government, you take the online safety bill for an example, you take the anti-terrorism bill for an example. These are all, once it becomes a law, once it's passed in the parliament, they have the majority, they will pass it in the parliament, it's a law. And then they will say it's constitutional and it's a law. But the implications are so far-reaching that it will affect different classes of people, different levels of people differently. Now, when it comes to the Online Safety Act, which was passed today, several international bodies objected to this. International Asian Internet Coalition, then the International Human Rights Watch, all of this, and particularly the service providers, the portals like Meta for Facebook, like X, Google, all of them. What if all these international platforms withdraw from Sri Lanka? Because Sri Lanka is a very small market for them. We have seen withdrawals of that kind happening to bigger countries like China. So Sri Lanka is a very small playground for them. What if they move out? Now we are looking at a global economy. We are looking at looking out from Sri Lanka to find assistance to develop this country, to forget about developing it, to get us out of this deep black hole that we are in economically, socially and financially. So in a situation like this, the government of the day is continuing to traverse the basic rights, basic human rights of the people in the guise of laws of parliament, in the guise of enactments in parliament. This is a very concerning situation which has to be addressed immediately.
Right. So, Taraka, just to pick your brain, what is the stand of the SJB with regard to the Yuktiya program that is going on right now?
Shamir, in principle, if it is the duty of the police and the armed forces, particularly in the police in peace times, to ensure law and order, whether they have special missions or programs, particularly having an operation like Yuktiya shows a failure, that the police system have failed. Because if the police did their job right, the drug lords or mafiosos or thugs or the so-called underworld cannot be this active. So that is why they had to introduce a particular operation by then either it's a populist stunt by someone or it's a move to address a failure, one of those. So let's give it the positive, let's give a chance to the positive thought for a change. Okay, it's to abet whatever has happened in the past, to correct it. Now, how many renowned underworld kingpins have been captured? We have heard so many names coming on media. How many of those renowned underworld kingpins captured? None. And you look at the quantities that are seized of drugs, say heroin or ice or any other drugs of any other definition, very minute. Other than the Navy seizing, I think, a sizable amount of heroin on a trawler or a boat, it's very minute, sometimes less than a kilo a day. So this is sometimes this is a face-saving operation, sometimes it's a operation to divert the attention of the general public rather than protecting the interests of the general public. That is concerning.
For full disclosure, Taraka is also very much attached to the SJB as well. Taraka, I don't know whether you're aware, on the 22nd of December 2023, last year that is, Amita Bandar, who served as the Kurunagara district organizer for the Samagijana Balavege, was arrested in the Mahava Junction with heroin, thanks to the Yuktiya program. What do you have to say about this?
Shamir, in an organization of our magnitude, we have, with the last election where we performed very badly, I mean, in the sense, there was a landslide victory for the SLPP, we had 2.7 million votes. previous presidential election, though we contested under the
You're not
UNP
answering my
ticket.
question, Tariq.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. I'm not evading questions. I will answer that. So, membership of a magnitude of 3 to 5 million, and organizers, MPs, organizers. There can be MPs who are involved in this, not organizers, not district organizers. So, the duty of a political party is to take steps to prevent that from recurring. So we have discussed
So it's okay to
internally.
appoint-
No, we have,
So
let
it's
me
okay
answer.
to
Let me.
appoint
We have internally discussed to improve our vetting process, and we have immediately suspended that person from his positions of the party, and we are awaiting the results of the police inquiry, and he'll be dealt with.
So Tariq, usually this has been a question because of the fact that this is going to be an election year. Nominations are going to be given to people to contest a poll. Why isn't the vetting process done beforehand? When you have someone of this sort who is an organizer in a particular electorate being nabbed for drugs, that raises serious concern. That means the vetting process of the SJB is not working right.
Shamir, he is not an organizer of a particular electorate. We have a second rank called district organizers, but however, we should not be afraid to call a spade a spade. There has been a mistake. The mistake is maybe on the vetting process, maybe on somebody who recommended. What happens is generally someone in the party perhaps would recommend, okay, this person is an up and coming popular person, let's try to get him to our party so that we can touch upon his base. So these things happen. It's not the first time it has happened. SJB is not the first party it happened
The
to.
last time you
But
came on the
as
show,
the
we had a
mistake-
similar problem, Tarika.
Not with SJB.
Not
yet.
but we've seen this happening right through. But we'll get back to the nitty-gritties momentarily as we go along, Tarika. I now moved on to Attorney at Law Javed Yusuf. So Javed is somewhat independent as far as the four panelists are concerned, because Srilal is representing Party Champion Rani Workers Party, Mr. Vijay Bandar is NBP, and Tarek is from the SJB. So Javed, you somewhat sit today on the show as an independent panelist. So what are your thoughts on the rule of law and order, and the current state of affairs in Sri Lanka?
Well, I would associate myself with all the general remarks which have been made so far and state that the rule of law is paramount at the best of times. But in a time when we are going through a severe economic crisis and we are trying to raise the economy, I think the rule of law has to be applied across the board equally so that it will inspire confidence among the citizens to engage in the task of economic rebuilding. Now, what is happening around us now does not give us much confidence. For instance, now already reference has been made, there is a Yuktiya program. The Yuktiya program, the Human Rights Commission has called it a misnomer to use the word Yuktiya for reasons they have outlined in their statement. Then there is this online safety bill. Now, if you look at what is happening, the police have authoritatively stated that this problem exists mainly in the western and southern provinces. But we have seen a number of incidents where people have been gunned down in both these provinces while the Yuktiya operation is going on. That is one aspect which causes alarm. But the more fundamental and important aspect for me is that the people who are being targeted belong to the marginalized and poor. You know, drug addicts basically, from what I can see. Now, there are a lot of questions that can be raised with regard to this operation. Now, it was started, I think, on December 13th or something like that. And then December, at that time, you had a list of suspects ready. Now, that didn't come out overnight. That means the police had that information, but they had not taken action earlier. And suddenly they went after all these people, and there are many reports where these poor people, drug addicts, one doesn't approve in any way their habits, but for whatever reason they have been addicted and they are being tortured and they are being hammered by police. There are many reports of that. Now, the important thing is, and the presumption of law is, that even a guilty person has certain rights. You know, he has to be tried, he has to be given dignity in questioning and so on. Now, all that is missing. While going after all these poor people, have you seen in the papers any attempt or any news when any of these nightclubs have been raided? Because it's well known that many of these nightclubs are hotspots where drugs are exchanged. I mean, we saw several months back even accidents where people who were returning from motor accidents, where they were returning from these nightclubs, had met with serious accidents because they were supposed to be under the influence of these drugs, narcotics. So there will be no talk of that. Then, as I think Tarak also mentioned, why is it that there isn't a single big wig they have gone after? I've read, I can't remember who said it, there is a rather contorted logic here. They say if you get all the people who are consuming drugs behind bars, then the supply will dry up because those guys don't have a place to sell. I mean, this is ridiculous. All the efforts, financial, all the resources that are being used should be targeted with regard to the big ones, because if
who said this statement?
I can't really quote somebody, but I read this.
No, it is the assumption.
That is the assumption, no, logically. Otherwise, what is the meaning of this? If they are catching people who are trafficking on the streets together with the big ones, then I can understand. There doesn't seem to be a parallel process going on.
So Javed, interestingly, the minister who's in charge of this operation, Tiran Allah, very clearly said that even if the UN tells him to stop, he won't stop this operation. And we saw just days after the UN issuing a statement saying an immediate suspension and to review the Yuktiya program. So it seems that you cannot twist the arm of the minister right now in terms of this proposal. So what would be the way forward?
Yeah, I don't think anybody would want to twist the minister's arm, but you try to persuade to that better reason is seen, and we have to follow constitutional guidelines. Police have to follow constitutional guidelines. Now, when you are setting the police loose, the police must be told, go after the people who have broken the law,
right,
but do it within the confines of the law.
Okay.
They should not be told, you go ahead, we will back you. That is a wrong message to give the police, because within the police ranks, there are many good officers, many good policemen, but there are also bad eggs. So bad eggs take advantage of the situation, and that is why there is this whole question of, uncertainty and poorer sections being targeted. And before I conclude on this point, since you referred to the online safety bill, even here, some things defy logic. Now, Supreme Court said so many clauses should be amended and so on and so forth.
Over 30 clauses.
Over 30 clauses out of 54 or something like that. Now, the Attorney General came to the Supreme Court and presented the amendments and said, we will amend it. Now, I can't see why it had to be done at that stage, because prior to a bill being presented or placed on the order paper, AG has to clear it. So these amendments should have been included even before. This is not this is the practice not only in this case, many other cases. They come and say we will move amendments at the committee stage. Now that is a highly unsatisfactory situation. And the second thing is, then when you, I think the minister said this in Parliament, that this Asian body of internet providers and so on have also suggested amendments. We will bring amendments, we'll take it to the cabinet and bring an amending bill later. Now, if at the time you are presenting the original bill, you are saying you are going to move amendments later. Why not delay it, bring everything on board, and get everybody, all stakeholders, get everybody's views. And when there is a cry on the part of government that the opposition must cooperate, you must, when they want to cooperate, you must allow them to cooperate. Otherwise, if you are just throwing away their ideas, then the division gets, crystallized.
Right. Thank you very much, Attorney at Law Javed Yusuf. We open the floor for questions from the only journalist on to immediate left, Niresh Adithambi. Niresh, all yours.
Mr. Javed Yusuf, just to pick your brain on this, when other countries or police departments in other countries launch anti-narcotics operations, they arrest 10 people, 20 people, at worst 50, 100. But from the word go, our police were arresting over 2,000 people every 24 hours. Now the number has come down a bit, but it seems to have settled around 1,000. So how many people are going to be locked up or arrested and then released? So far we've had nearly 40,000. And that's just in a little over a month. If we keep going like this for another 6 months, how many people are going to be locked up? And is that the government's aim? Because in the end, this is a political decision which was taken. The police did not take this decision. It was a political decision. So has the government created somewhat of a police state through this Operation Yuktiya, as they call it?
Yeah, no, this is one of the problematic areas, really. How are you identifying these people? There's hardly any time for investigations to be done. Say today you produce a list, you go around picking up certain people, tomorrow another list. So where is this information coming up? Was it already existent within the ranks of the police, or is it being fished out? So as a result, definitely injustices are being caused to people, because police can make mistakes deliberately or otherwise. So this is something. And the other thing is, which you mentioned and I forgot to mention, why do this in such a blaze of publicity? It is not necessary.
Including arms giving to celebrate, commemorate 1 month of the operation. Every police station they show, even your media shows that some arms giving to celebrate completion of 1 month. I mean, it's whose project? Is this the way public sector behave, police department? When the minister says, if he is not get the permanent appointment, he will get into politics. The minister in public media conference, he stated that. I mean, whose project? That is why I say this is that we also in single Vikurti governance. Who is responsible? Who is accountable? Who is behind this? Who has sanctioned this?
But Mr. Vijayvanna, now on the one hand you have 40,000 people having been arrested.
Yes, and remand.
And on the other hand, within 24 hours, you have 2 murders, one a mass murder, 5 people, another one a Buddhist monk, and both these were apparently committed with T-56 assault rifles. That's not something that you can hide in your pocket.
Yes.
You can't even hide that in a vehicle. You simply can't go around with it. It has to be hidden until used. So if all these searches are happening, how can such weapons be around? And in the case of the Veliyatta shooting, we are told that 2 T-56s were used, which is, I think, a first in Sri Lankan assassinations, that 2 assault rifles have been used. And by expert marksmen, when you look at the bullet holes there. So what's going on here?
And no attempt had been made to recover. Now, after the war ended in 2009, it is well known, it's within the public domain, that many number of illegal weapons have been spread all over the country. No concrete attempt had been made by those who were in power to recover those weapons from unlawful possessions. and these even acting IGP, he had been the senior DIG SSP in the Colombo district of Western Province for a very long time, and he has not taken any step during his capacity as a senior DIG Western Province to look into this matter until he is now IM for permanence in the IGP position. I mean, can a single person introduce this type of project or program? I call this a project, personal project, not a legitimate operation. According to his whim and fancy, who is accountable? Has the president made any statement regarding policy statement, this is the government policy? Never.
Now to add to that, Mr. Jivandar, now today the police announced that they will give cash rewards for information about weapons and hand grenades and so on. But let me ask Taraka, the amounts, given the seriousness of this situation, the amounts seem quite paltry. 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees for turning in a man who has a gun or a grenade at home. Would you do that for 15,000, 25,000? It seems ridiculous. I mean, shouldn't the offers be much larger, number one? And why do the police need to make these offers in the first place? Have they completely lost control of the country and the people in the sense that they are unaware who has a T-56 at home?
Now, Nilesh, when generally this is a problem that can occur, that has to be addressed. If there are unauthorized weapons, there is a standard practice. You first offer amnesty. A week, you say whatever the illegal weapons that are there in your possession, you hand over or anonymously hand over, no charges incurred. Then you start pushing in the legal way. And yes, rewards has been a part, informant rewards have been a part of our system for a while. But as you very correctly say, if the police has to offer 10,000-15,000 for a tip of that nature, of a crime that serious, that means it's a non-starter. It's clearly a non-starter. So that shows how strategically deprived our police force is. I'm not privy to this news. I'm taking your your word on it. But if that is the case, it shows how strategically deprived our police is. Now, when somebody, it's good to aspire for high office. That's a personal matter. But then it's determined in a particular way. There is a constitutional methodology and a statutory methodology to appoint people to high office. Be that as it may, if someone is aspiring to bring in a change, maybe look at the wider world, look at the developed world, how they operate now. Having said that, this unauthorized guns, now in the United States, I believe the Second Amendment, this gun use is not prohibited, constitutionally guaranteed. And there are so many murders, daylight killings in schools, all these unfortunate events. Gun control is a taboo topic in the United States. However, negative effects there are. But in other countries, you look at the Scandinavian countries, you look at the other ends of Europe, you look at Asian examples such as Singapore, there is very strong control on these criminal activities, not only gun control, strong control on all criminal activities. So, if you're aspiring for high office, might as well look out to the world.
But what I don't understand is, Taraka, where is the intelligence apparatus, here? Because you speak about having an intelligence, the military intelligence, the police intelligence. What are they doing?
SIS, all this. So yes, that's why I said strategically it's a strategic blunder if they have offered these kind of tips, and it is known, it is essential that any police or any military service, any defense institution, as an integral part, they have intelligence.
So because Tarek,
the system failure, I would say.
May I say this?
Yeah, yes.
Now, actually speaking, there is no strategic data for Sri Lanka to understand the criminality level of the country, right? There is I will show you the index. There is an index called the Global Initiative Against Organized Crimes. Sri Lanka ranks 103rd among the 193 countries, 30th among the 46 Asian countries, and the 6th among the 8 South Asian countries. So our criminality level is very high. So nobody has done an objective survey other than this particular report. Now I can show this to the camera. It's a very interesting report, right? All aspects are there and scores are given. Now if you take for the heroin level, the heroin is scored 6.5. Then the mafia style groups, state embodied actors. So it's very interesting, important aspect in this whole game. The state sponsored mafia is here. We are not saying, it's a global initiative we're saying. So under the pretext of Yuktiya, they are not going to deal with this situation. Situation is a completely different thing. That is the reality. So they are showing us a drama. 20,000 people were arrested, this much of, but nothing happened on the criminality.
No, but the problem is, Srila, at the end of the day, why always a reactive approach? Why not a proactive approach? When a mass murder of this sort happens, where 5 people are killed in broad daylight, that does.
Who should take the reactive or proactive stand? The government.
You tell me.
State. It is the state security is a public good. It is not a role of a citizens. When we provide the power to the ruler, it is their duty to protect our security. And what is happening within our country for last several decades, the impunity prevails, complicity prevails. Government actors are, dealing with underworld. Bribes are taken. You name it, this report, if you read this report, it gives a very perfect understanding about the level of criminality in our country. Sri Lanka is a hub for drug trafficking. We are not consuming heroin that much. We are using Sri Lanka as a transit point.
No, but the question is, Srila, now just imagine, what Tarak was talking about before as well. We are arresting those who are using the drugs, but not those who are bringing down the drugs.
Yeah, that is true. So that's what
I'm pretty sure the intelligence departments would know who's bringing down these drugs and nab those people.
That's what even Taraka said.
But
I will say in another way, Yuktiya Mehuma operation is an impeachment for the existing police officers of the country, because for last several decades they have not done anything. The Yuktiya proves their inability. So now they are saying that these assets were taken into custody.
But at least we are not saying that.
No, that is good. We are not
devil's advocate. I think what Minister Tiranalas is doing is
we are not criticizing. Our criticism twofold. One is, whatever the drug eradication program, they have to abide by rule of law. That's the first principle. We are not criticizing Mr. Tiranalas's campaign, nor Deshabandhu's political campaign, nor the eradication campaign.
What about Deshabandhu's political campaign?
This is a drama, no? What we are seeing in the television.
He also has political ambition.
Why not? He has two ambitions. One is to become the IGP. Second is once he get retired, to enter into politics. So no problem. But at the expense of public, he should not do that.
Yes,
that's the issue.
Now, Mr. Vijayavanar, we speak a lot about reorganizing various public institutions. Restructuring is the term bandied around. You have the CEB, the CPC, Sri Lankan Airlines. Everyone talks of restructuring. But isn't it even more pressing to restructure this police department?
Of course.
Restructuring department won't do at all nowadays. You have to start from top. From president, the ministers of cabinet, prime minister, the parliament, you have to start from there.
So you are talking about the need for elections.
Election and exemplary governance. I mean, the beginning point should be there. Don't talk about department restructuring.
Mr. Vijay,
May I intervene on that issue? Yeah, what he says is a overhaul of the governance is needed, but on the same time, the police ordinance, which was introduced in imperial time, has to be changed, at least, right? So, the police ordinance is archaic.
Anti-corruption laws. What happened? Restructuring or just introducing a law will not happen. What happened? And it is still in the drawer.
It depends on the experience. No, I mean now anybody hypothetically expect that, but we have to address the dire needs of the present day situation.
Yeah, I think all I agree that elections have to be held sooner or later. There is no doubt. But whichever government comes, the police department is in dire need not only of restructuring as such, retraining, reorienting to be people friendly. Because bulk of this police force, bulk of them, have got used to functioning under emergency regulations and PTA, and also their mindset is different. So they have to be reoriented for to be more people's friendly, while enforcing the rule of law according to the constitution and other laws.
All over the world, there is a principle called Pelian principles. I don't know whether the Sri Lankan Police Department even knows about that. Pelian principles were introduced in 1914 when the Scotland Yard police was introduced. All over the world, police departments are using those principles. But unfortunately, that is the last thing applied in Sri Lankan police. So when it comes to law and order and the stability, internal stability, we have to do this. This is the police of Sri Lanka has.
When the government appoints an IGP, what can we expect from police? I mean, when those who are responsible and vested with powers to appoint the head of police, if they have failed to do so, what can you expect from police?
Shamir, if you don't, just to come back to one matter that was raised earlier about these weapons.
Right.
Now, as you said, the intelligence should know where these weapons are. But one question that has been troubling me for a long time is, when you have this T-56 and so on, to use them, you have to practice somewhere. Wherever you practice, you're going to make a big sound.
But it could be army deserters as well, no?
No. The issue is parallel to you. What about the ammunition? Who supplies? Now in Sri Lanka, there is a monopoly. The only state imports the live ammunition. Now here, either state institution had to give it to the underworld, or underworld illicitly you have to smuggle it through the sea. So nobody give any credence to that issue.
That is why we said it's important to have the intelligence on track.
Not only it's intelligence, it's a security issue.
As you said, proactive measures has to be continuously taken now. Every day you have to search for illegal weapons and all these things.
Yeah, so I want to pick your brain because we spoke about the law and order situation. Let's talk about a little bit about the current state of affairs as well as the online safety bill that came to play today. So I want to ask Tharaka her question. Tharaka, now, today the second reading of the bill only was able to get 62 votes in Parliament. But if you look at when Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed as the president, the opposition was able to get 82 votes in favor. Does that mean that the support for the SJB plus opposition has reduced over the last few years?
No, I don't think so, Shamir. Then it has to increase to the other side. So you have to compare now.
These are important bills, you know, these are important bills.
Correct, agreed. But then you have to look at the backdrop. We were pushing hard to delay this for the very reason that the recommendations of the Supreme Court, the special determination, have to be carefully considered, because these bills, once they become law, not like in certain other judicial systems, it's not amenable to judicial review. Once it's a law passed by Parliament, it doesn't matter whether the 225, even all the 225 members who vote in favor who have been in parliament. It does not matter. Once it's a law, it's passed in parliament, it cannot be reviewed. So therefore, that is why Honorable Sajid Premadasa, the leader of opposition, along with the other party leaders, urged the speaker to postpone this and give it some time, because the sectoral oversight committee role was not properly performed. The amendments proposed or undertaken by the AG to be included were not properly included. Different amendments were brought in, so
No,
all these matters had to be
but
considered.
do you agree that the opposition is also split on certain decisions on matters of this sort, at least?
Shamir, I don't think opposition is split on a matter of national importance. Now, who wanted this online safety bill? Was it the general public? Verite Research conducted a research and the results are out today. If I am not badly mistaken, over 90% of the general public are not aware. 98% of the general public are not aware of the contents of the bill. So who wanted this? The government.
We spoke about the bill last week because we didn't have the contents of the bill ourselves, being the media.
At the moment, we don't know what is the bill exactly.
What was the final bill?
Because what we challenged in the special determinations is not what became the law. So that is why I said in my first round also, which is a very unfortunate, unprecedented and very unfortunate situation, which directly affects the separation of powers. And if that is so, Parliament has in fact disrespected a long drawn tradition. Forget about all the constitutionality or parliamentary practice has been disrespected. So opposition is, I don't think opposition is divided in matters of public importance, because all we want, it may be party A, B or C, but all we want is to put an end to this corrupt system and the government.
Sometimes, Taraka, you are saying there is no split in the opposition, but I of course see a significant split between the NPP and the SJB on many matters.
Well, they are all prime contenders in the next election. So on policy matters, we differ. We have to differ because SJB is following one political ideology. I believe NPP is following a different political ideology. So those differences have to be there. If they are together, there is no undertaking given to the general public.
Sarka, you've been in this game for some time now. I've interviewed you for many years now, from the time that you joined the UNP and then SJB. So I've seen you a lot on Face the Nation itself. If there is a parliamentary election in the future, where would you see the percentages swaying with the NPP, SJB, the SLFP, the SLPP? What is your take?
Shamir, thank you for the nice reintroduction that you've seen me in the game for a while. It feels good to hear that. But I think if one is experienced, that experience would tell you one thing: the political dynamic has changed drastically since the Aragale, the struggle, and it's very difficult to make political predictions, and the situation changes on a weekly basis. So I don't want to make predictions on the percentages either party would get, but I feel that given the past results and given the current trends, SJB will lead. If there's a general election, will lead comfortably, and I wouldn't comment beyond that.
So we'll lead comfortably. So let me switch to Mr. Vijay Bandara. If the SJB is going to lead comfortably at a future election, what would be the stand of the NPP?
I can say that we will lead comfortably at any election that may come in future, and also the way things happen day by day, there will be two-side election. Clearly, one side will be NPP, or those who have been governed.
But do you think, Mr. Vijay Bandara, any political party will be able to comfortably form 113 members in parliament, or would it be a hung parliament? Would it be a coalition government that's going to be coming into play?
It's not going to be that comfortable in a parliament election. But as
you
far as
comfortably lead, no, Mr. Vijay Bandara?
Yes, as far as NPP concerned, yes, day by day we are getting that.
Because we saw that traction last year when we were talking about a local government election. But don't you think that traction has now faded away?
That is the vote behavior is neutralized, because no election is set in motion now. Once the elections are set in motion, that will emerge again.
But when you make statements like prostitution will be legalized and all
that has been properly explained. So then if any interested
what's
party
wrong
can
with
raise it.
Individually speaking,
That has been explained.
What's wrong with that?
Is that the position of your party as well?
No, don't put those political slanders. What's wrong in legalizing prostitution?
No, there's no harm. So when
then why are you blaming?
When you make a statement and then withdraw the statement, then there's a problem.
I'm a complete
not an
opponent of
official statement, right?
JVP politics, but JVP, if JVP member has said so, we should not get alarmed on that. Those are all flimsy politics in this country happening. There is no problem with that. If somebody, he has right to say. What's wrong
But
with
is that the position of the party? That's the question.
That I
There are so many
explained.
persons now in a party.
No,
Now,
now,
when you make a statement representing Mr. Partli Chambakar's party, we have to take you seriously.
No, quite apart from party, I'm talking content. What's wrong in legalizing prostitution? Is it immoral or irrational or illegal?
so now these are the types
We have to
of-
discuss these things
Yes.
openly.
But-
You should not, media's role is to investigate these things, right? So unfortunately, what is happening by using ICCPR and everything, we are shutting down the free expression of the country. That's wrong.
Now this is a situation where the country has been in prolonged crisis
Yeah, I
and
agree.
keeps on,
I agree. But,
keeps on
but
going.
look at the
Yes, but-
JVP has no boldness to say yes, that it was said by one of our members. What's wrong with that? Not
Now-
that we are going to
now let's get
apply
back-
it or implement it.
Why aren't you
So
bold?
That-
Why are
It is not a
why-
policy statement of NPP. I mean, I have to make it
So-
very
so
clear.
let's
It is a
look at the
statement by
policy
individual
statements.
member, and then if it is whether it is a general policy of the party, that also explained by general
So
secretary.
we can understand now
Right,
it's
so
not definitely it's not a policy
of the party.
statement of the party.
Yes, so that's
but
it.
abstractly taking, what's wrong with that? What is the wrong with those
When
that
you have-
kind of
But
statement?
let's look at the need for policy statements. Now, this is an election year because the Constitution requires it. So let us assume that there will be a presidential election, which the President, by the way, has promised. So at this point, we have 8 months to go, maybe less. But the parties need to come out with their proper policy statements and manifestos so that people can understand, the voters can understand what their positions are on all these aspects, on not just on things like prostitution and drugs and crime, but also on the economic recovery, which is the biggest issue that people want to know about. So how
course,
is that
of
going to
course.
happen?
Now, if you-
so when would we see these proper manifestos and policy statements coming out?
In relation to our party, all policy statements are in the website. You can see
The United Republican
United
Front.
Republic Front. Everything is there.
But is it come an election? What will be the party in which your party leader would be supporting? Is he going to contest independently, or has that decision been made?
Yeah. That is by next month we will announce that.
No. So you said now the decision has been made. Now next
Decision
month
is
is
made
future.
on policy. The policy platforms are ready.
By when, Srila, can we expect an announcement from your party in terms
By end of February.
So you all will make a decision as to who will be contesting the next election.
Coalition will be announced.
Have you all had discussions with the SJB, the NPP?
NPP
SLPP?
is not, as a policy they have said, they will entertain any individual, not parties. That is their official statement. There is no possibility of entering into coalition with NPP.
What about the SJB?
SJB, yes, we can talk.
Tell me the reason, Srilal, why did you split from the SJB?
That you have to ask from Mr. Sajid Premadasa and Jalani Premadasa.
Jalani
Why?
Premadasa? Why Jalani
So
Premadasa?
she is also co-author of the party, no?
Taraka?
I don't think that kind of allegations are warranted
No,
in
no,
a
issue
forum
is
like
that,
this.
if you ask
in
me
a esteemed forum
why
like
we
this,
left,
I
so
think
you have to ask from those
Miss
two.
Honorable Champika Ranawaka, Mr. Sirasa Laktilaka, all of them were party to this fold, SJB at the point. Maybe they have ideological differences, maybe there were political aspirations of certain people which did not match the aspirations of the party. So there could be so many reasons, but I don't think it's reasonable to
I'm
drag.
still confused, Srilal, when you say.
No, I don't think, Samir, you should.
I should be confused.
Ask that.
You should ask that question. Continue to ask that question
But I
because
should be
I feel
confused.
it's not very decent to discuss.
No, but
an issue
what
like
is the
that in a
reason?
forum
Because
like this?
because I remember.
We can also. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to get into a level of. I mean, in a discussion like this, in a forum like this, in different forum, I would answer differently. But in a forum like this,
No,
I would like to
but
keep
what is the reason?
conversation
Because
peace.
we saw the manner in which I remember Parli Shampir and Sajid Premdas were taking pictures at one point together. They were
So, I mean,
united.
he was not entertained within the party. That's the issue.
So then why do you want to discuss again with the SJB?
We know the result would be the same.
So, but now you just said, no, Srila, that you want to talk to the SJB.
No, if you look at the policy platform, we have never defied the SJB line. Against the government, we never defied. When SJB has taken a line, now take for instance the online safety bill, we are not taking a different line. On IMF, we have not taken any different line. So we consider them as one of the brother parties. That's all. But we are looking at the country in a different way.
Right. So, Srila, tell me, I want to know, pick your brain as well. During the last 10 to 12 years, you've been in several political parties.
No, I'm in right.
No,
Throughout the time, I was a member of UNP.
That is very subjective, no?
No.
Srila, you were with the UNP, then you were with with the Yahapalne government.
May I explain?
Yeah, then you were with SJB. Then
my
now you are with the
stand is
Republic
right. I'm a liberal. I was a member of UNP. We brought the campaign in support of UNP Madhura with Sobita's campaign, Tero's campaign. So then we were at that time, but we had a difference of opinion with Mr. Wickramasinghe. So therefore we helped Maithripala Sirisena. I was not a SLFP member. I was still, then I supported SJB. I am throughout last.
But you're not SJB anymore.
No, not now. But you can't understand political ideology.
No, I honestly don't understand.
No, I am representing the right, center right of this country. I never participated any left or socialist
But what if
party.
someone tells you you're doing this for your petty agenda?
No, I never achieved anything. I am a loser. I have never achieved anything through politics.
You may be wanting to achieve something this time.
No, even if this country, something happened to this country, that is enough. We are well-off people. We don't want to achieve anything through politics.
So, we're getting a lot of questions. I want to pose this question to Javed. Javed, so one of the members who are watching the show tonight posed a question with regard to the online safety bill. Despite the Asia Internet Coalition and opposition expressing their concerns about the online safety bill, the bill was passed with 46 majority votes in Parliament. Isn't this the biggest threat to our democracy, the freedom of speech and the rule of law?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. But if I go to explain, now the online safety bill was passed by 40 odd votes. I think the bill received about 100 votes, 100 odd votes in support. Now take that in contrast, the last week or week before, Parliament passed the Office for National Unity bill. And those who voted for it were only about 60 odd. So you can see the priorities, right? That was not so important as to muster 100 votes, but this was so important. And if you listen to many of the speeches in Parliament, those who spoke in support of this bill related it to the Aragalya. I think they had a sense of grievance that this social media helped boost Aragalaya and created a political course of its own. Now, if you look at the online safety bill, and I think the minister himself and others kept on harping on the fact that this is to protect women and children. Now, all well and good. I don't think anybody will be against that. That's a laudable objective. But then they could have separated this and had provisions only with regard to safeguarding that, not rush into situations which directly affect the freedom of expression. Of course, I agree that social media, some of the language that is used is very uncouth. Some of the personal attacks on people, whether they are politicians or otherwise, is totally unacceptable, because all of them have families and children and so on. But those in public office or engage in public activity is an occupational hazard that they have to be called to account. So that role social media played well, and I think people also got a chance to express themselves freely. But of course, I think there should be certain regulation and so on, but that has to be carefully thought out without it impeding on the overall freedom of expression. Now, when you refer to freedom of expression, I want to just touch on another point relating to the police. You see, when there are demonstrations and protests, you see the police coming with orders and saying the court has ordered you not to walk along this way or protest or so on and so forth. Now, we have three eminent lawyers here, so they will, I would like to hear their views on that. I strongly suspect that the police goes before the magistrate the day before the incident or on the day of the protest and presents a B report with certain facts. And the magistrate is in a quandary. He has to act on that report, because if he makes a mistake and there is some problem, he will be responded to. So some of the magistrates do give orders saying don't protest or don't do a procession. But after that is done, that case is not pursued, as far as I know. I don't know. So then there is no judicial mind brought to this. So this method of using this court orders to stifle opposition is another dangerous thing. This again has to be looked at and related to the overall police aspect of this.
Right.
Javed, quite apart from what you have said, it's very interesting to note that, censorship belongs to the past era. Now, through this act, they are bringing and introducing a censor board for digital world, which is very archaic. You can't control it. Now, the commission, among the commission powers, there is something called prohibited statements. So who is going to decide those prohibitedness, and also alarming and distressing? So can you define it? So this will give more arbitrary powers to the commission. Ultimately, it will become a burden.
But Javed said about the B report. Is that happening?
It's a very interesting point. I think that's what happens because the police prosecutes in these magistrate courts. Generally, it's not the Attorney General's department involved. Police will file a B report, and at most times ex parte, not with representatives as opposition members.
Investigation and beginning, and what Javed said is very correctly beginning, but there should be an end.
Right.
Exactly.
So what happened to ICCPR also same. They start, comment, and then produce or remand. Or
so I want to ask a question from the four of you. Since of late, we've seen a lot of comments, views expressed against Buddhism and so on and so forth. Why are we seeing these developments lately? Shridhar, what's the...
I didn't get...
We are seeing a lot of people being arrested for making remarks against Buddhism, and we're seeing this happening lately quite often. Why?
Yeah, so you know that what I have to say very simply, ICCPR is never meant to arrest people on right of expression. Now, if you look at the structure of the ICCPR International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 19 provides rights, provision for the right. Then Article 20 provides if you are inciting violence, defamatory statement or hatredness, you can curtail the expression. Now, what has happened in Sri Lankan law, they have given more emphasis to the Article 20 than the Article 19. So,
Right.
the previous judgment, bail application judgment on Honorable Justice Pattabandi, it gives, I don't think that after that judgment, anybody will put people into remand in that manner. But unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, now this religious dissent is not managed in Sri Lanka. So therefore, always it has become a tool of the government to oppress certain wills of the people. So it's very unfair, and we believe that ICCPR law should not use to arrest or remand any person. That is our view.
Right. So we're going for a short commercial break. We are in conversation with Attorney at Law Sirasa Laktilaka from the United Republic Front, Attorney at Law James Vijay Bandara from the NPP, Attorney at Law Tharaka Nanakara from the SJB, as well as Attorney at Law Javed Yusuf. We are in conversation with the four of them. We're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, we speak more about the rule of law, law and order, as well as the current state of affairs in Sri Lanka and what is the way forward to a country like us. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back.
Explore education across 6 destinations: England, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, Malaysia and Vietnam under one roof on 27 January from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Taj Samudra. Speak directly with university representatives. Scholarships available. Calling 077 177 0361.
උගත මනා ශිල්පයමයි මතු රැකිනා. උඩුගම නාකියා දෙනිය දරුදරියන්ට විසල් දැනුම සොයා යන්නට පුස්තකාලයකට මුල් කළ තබා අනාගතයට දුර විවර කළ වගයි. ගම්මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පෞර.
Explore education across 6 destinations: England, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, Malaysia and Vietnam under one roof on 27 January from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Taj Samudra. Speak directly with university representatives. Scholarships available. Calling 077 177 0361.
Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. So let me ask the four of you as to what is the way forward for Sri Lanka, because right now we're talking about an election year. We talk about, Neeraj spoke about the fact that how important it is to bring forth policies because people have to know, and that's one of the allegations people are leveling at the NPP. You're talking about the rhetoric in terms of anti-corruption and so on and so forth, but in policy, what do you all have in paper? What is it that you're going to do at the grassroots, so on and so forth. So first of all, let's talk to Shilal. Shilal, you said next month you all will be unveiling your future plans as to who would you all join as far as the coalition is concerned, because we all know that you all won't strike a deal independently as far as the election is concerned, but I don't know what the direction is. But tell me, what is the way forward for a country like Sri Lanka?
We believe the Sri Lankan economic crisis is a result of a governance crisis. The governance is, decided by the clans and patrons of this country. This clan-patron relationship is spread throughout the country decision-making system, which starts from the grassroots to the top level. So, transforming the clientelism is the most important aspect in this country. Once you change the clientelism, then you can start thinking about the economic development. Otherwise, it's like a cancer. All the now there is a report what I always used to quote. 10% of the GDP, 10% of the GDP is extracted through malpractices, corruption, etc., etc. But there is a wrong notion that you can eradicate the corruption. What the country has to do is you have to stop all the avenues that will pave a way for corruption. Now everybody saying stolen assets. You can collect stolen assets, but there are now. My good friend said that laws are enough. Now I can give you one good example. Proceeds of Crime Act. It is still not drafted. If that Proceeds of Crimes Act not drafted, you can't go after anything in America or England. So then you need a treaty between the United States and Sri Lanka. If now people used to say that X have Rajapaksa stolen assets to bring down to Sri Lanka, but you can't do first the local law or second the treaty. Without that, even you go after FBI go after and take the property from Los Angeles, we can't claim it. So therefore, first of all, what you have to do is we have to apply laws to prevent future corruption.
So,
right?
so
then
Shiral,
comes to the economic development.
So, Shiral, now we all know professionals in Sri Lanka are paying up to 36% pay taxes. Then corporates are paying up to 30% corporate taxes at the moment. But when all this is happening, when when people are tightening their belts, you see a lot of corruption happening even now. We saw how the manner in which the health minister, the former health minister, is accused of the immunoglobulin situation. You know, so is that fair? You know, we are tightening our belts, and someone else is getting benefited.
You have to deal with the political culture of this country. First, I mean, there are two aspects in our country: the structural problem, which I explained through changing of the governance. Then you have the cultural problem, which is the political culture of our country is corrupted up to the hilt. So you have to change that also, right? So both things have to be happen parallel.
Yeah, when there are Thai-Pongal events that are taking place with public's money in the upcountry, when public money is being wasted, when you have ministers saying that we told you so to grow vegetables in your garden, if not the prices of vegetables are going to be too steep. What's happening, Mr. Vijayaban? Are you even, what are these ministers even talking?
And you see the corruption, the People Bank has written off 54,000 million or 54 billion debts by way of restructuring or whatever it is, and list is given. List is very well known. All political affiliated people, not others. And lot of recovering are taken place, lot of low-level businessmen are in danger. They have no options, their business collapse, and short-term loans.
Mr. Vijayavardhana, we speak about this a lot, especially at Newsfirst and particularly on this show, Shamir, on this program. But let's talk about walking the talk here. Yes. Just a few days ago, Singapore arrested a senior cabinet minister, their Minister of Transport. The sitting Minister of Transport was arrested and charged. 27 counts of corruption for a fairly paltry figure of $120,000. Now, are your parties, your respective parties, prepared to arrest cabinet ministers, whether they be of the previous government, should you all come to power, or your own cabinet ministers? Because in this country, we don't even seem to arrest the previous government's cabinet ministers, let alone your own cabinet ministers.
That is exactly what I am referring. At the moment that we are totally lacking that. You and me agree that. That is why I say that we have, both of you have asking what is your plan. Now, you know, we are expecting an election this year, and so far we haven't in the governing seat. Initially, we have identified main key 10 departments in this country. Department of Customs, Police, etc. So we have a very clear plan initially, even immediately next day after the election. We cannot do a system change next day. We have to work with this existing system, but first thing we can do is show the exemplary governance. For that purpose, we have identified key main 10 departments. So we show examples from setting up from the top president, the parliament, ministers of cabinet. You ask if anybody is wrong, definitely they will be dealt according to law. That is what is lacking right now. That is what we are promising to the people, system change. So we will introduce that system. There is no need to borrow money or expenses to do that. To do right thing, no need of money. Even indebted country can do it. We don't want money to show the examples. If you follow the law, if you obey the law, if you don't allow to bend the law, if you allow the respective government officials and department to act in terms of the law without any interference whatsoever. Everywhere what we hear is interferences, political interferences.
Now tell me, let me ask you a very simple question,
Yes.
Mr. Vijayabandar. Now, we know the price of vegetables have really gone up right now. If there is an NPP government, what would be the alternative course of action that you all would have taken?
We wouldn't have allowed that to happen in that manner. You know what happened, the fertilizer crisis and all this, that was a made problem.
Yeah, but that was
Yes.
2 years ago.
Now that problem
there are no
is
ripple effects now. No. on
exactly. Now
vegetables.
problem is there. We'll have to address that problem.
Yeah, but what is,
It
how
takes
would
time.
you all
Yeah.
how would you all solve that problem?
You put somebody into a well, and then we are asked what is the solution. So we have to think of a solution, right? So you can't give a solution in a
Mr.
plan.
Vijayabandar, you know why I'm saying this? A kilo of carrots in Dubai,
Yeah.
they don't even grow carrots, by the way, is only around 3 to 4 dirhams, which is around 400 rupees.
Yes.
What do? They import carrots from Turkey, from neighboring countries, because they know they can't be self-sufficient when it comes to vegetables. What does Sri Lanka do? What do they do?
Sri Lanka.
We have ministers saying,
Yes.
we want people to grow. When a lot of people in Sri Lanka are living in apartments, you expect for 3 months to grow something and have the benefit out of it. So
We
that is
have-
why I'm asking you,
Yes.
what is the clear-cut policy that the NPP has?
We
Because
have-
it's good to say.
Yes,
You know,
yes, sir.
it's very easy to say all this, Mr. Vijayabandar. You know, you can come on the show and
Yes.
say, guess what? We will stop corruption. If we were there in power,
Yes.
there will never be a vegetable shortage. Understood. You know, it's easy to say.
The thing is, Shamir, stop corruption is a concept.
Is a concept.
But,
so
but what Singapore did was arrest their cabinet minister. So it's that kind of concrete
Implement
proposals.
the law. Implement the law. Now, this carrot issue or the vegetable issue, it is suddenly,
will you all import vegetables to the country?
if it is necessary, certainly we'll have to, but we have enough number of lands, enough number of agricultural land to do cultivation, right? If somebody has mismanaged and taken economically collapsing decision, that is what
But
is
do
the
you know, Mr.
experience, right?
Vijayabandar, what happened with this problem last
No
few months?
impossibles. Sri Lankan agricultural wise, we are self, we can sell.
But do you understand what happened now? First
That
of all, you have
that
to
has happened,
understand what
yes.
has happened, no, Mr.
Yes.
Vijayabandar. Now, when you speak about fertilizer, there was no fertilizer crisis during the last 6 months.
That
there
is
was
not
ample
sufficient.
fertilizer
That is
in
not-
Sri
that is
Lanka.
not sufficient to arrest the situation of vegetable crisis.
Yeah, so then what is...
It's an ongoing problem, right? So you have to, that is exactly, I'm telling, if NPP governments come today, you can sort out the next week the vegetable crisis. I mean, can you expect that to happen? We cannot lie to in public. We have to have a proper plan. We have to
So what
execute
is that plan? That is why I'm
yes,
asking.
plan is a proper agricultural plan. We know that we have enough number of hectares in Sri Lanka to grow vegetable, and we are not letting people to commit suicide. Farmers, right? We are tax policy on farmers and importation of materials.
So the reason, just to give you some insight, Mr. Vijayabandar, the reason that last few months the vegetable
natural
croppers,
disaster may be
natural
one
disaster.
reason. Yes, natural,
So then you
have
can't
to
help
predict.
it. No?
Exactly. You have
So then what is the plan?
so you have to predict that. You have to answer
Because this is a very decisive time for you all,
Yes.
Mr. Vijay, because people are watching you all.
If disaster happen, you have to have alternatives. If disaster happen, like pandemic happen, COVID, so we have to ask for foreign aids, help. If the situation is such, but always you cannot rely on that. You have to have all proper plan for self-growing.
Self-growing. So you're all saying people have to start growing.
People has to work. Government has to plan and implement.
Mr. Vijay, I'm asking a simple question. Are you also suggesting that people in Sri Lanka should start growing, everyone?
No.
Then what is
That's
it?
nonsense.
Then what
But
is it? If that's
There are
nonsense,
sectors,
then what it is?
Shamit, there are sectors, farmers, agricultural sector. So we will enhance those sectors. We are not expecting every and each person to have their self-sufficient at their own shelter, vegetable. We are not talking like that.
I don't know, Mr. Vijay. That's what I'm asking you.
That is
I don't
somebody
know.
else told. That is not NPP who told
No,
that.
no, that's what I'm asking you because a lot of people right now, Mr. Vijay Bandar, are saying that the NPP has the rhetorics. You all have the organizing power. You all, when you
Yes.
went to Jaffna, you all had a lot of people attending that public rally as well. So you all are gaining some momentum. But what the people really want to know is, do you all have the clear cut? Because we saw the same sentiments being expressed, Mr. Vijay Bandar, when Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
But you haven't experienced our governance, right?
We have no. Why? 2006, 2007,
No, that is not our governance.
Why?
No, not at
Why?
all.
Andukumar Lusalak was Minister of Agriculture and Irrigation.
And there are ministers who are totally neutral right now also, if you are not affiliated with the top.
You all had more than 25 parliamentarians of the
So
JVP.
if you are not
in
affiliated
parliament.
with the kitchen cabinet,
I
you can't
don't
do
think
anything.
that this question is appropriate for him because he was not a member of that party.
and also,
at that time, he
Just
is
being a
at the UNP.
Just being a minister of cabinet, I mean, it's not a rational question.
Right.
Say that we were in governance, right?
Yeah.
There are ministers who can be a
You all been
minister
a
for 3
coalition
months.
government, no?
No,
Yeah.
we couldn't execute any of our policies. Being a minister, secretaries have been appointed by the president. President was not from our party.
But irrigation policy was implemented, no? Tanks were built.
But it is a temperance. We couldn't.
Vauda Hasak flow. Remember, Vauda
So
Hasak.
we
was not
started
complete.
it, but we were not couldn't stay there for a very long time. No,
That was a failure.
very
no?
temporary.
But that was failure.
No,
the
no,
project was.
we wouldn't allowed to continue. No,
Right. So I want to pick Tharaka's and Javid's brain as well momentarily. But we go in for a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we speak to Tharaka and Javid for their final thoughts on today's topic and the way forward for Sri Lanka. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation.
Explore education across 6 destinations: England, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, Malaysia and Vietnam under one roof on 27 January from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Taj Samudra. Speak directly with university representatives. Scholarships available. Calling 077 177 0361.
උගත මනායි ශිල්පයමයි මතු රැකිනා. උඩුගම නාකයා දෙනිය දරුදරයන්ට විසල් දැනුම සොයායන්නට පුස්තකාලයකට මුල් කළ තබා අනාගතයට දුර විවර කළ වගයි. ගම්මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පවුර.
So welcome back. This is Face the Nation. So I'll get back to Taraka momentarily, but Javid, what's the way forward? Now we saw today the online safety bill comes into play. Many who got into Twitter today said that that this is a blow for freedom of expression in Sri Lanka. It's a blow as far as social media is concerned. It's about silencing not only social media but indirectly silencing the media as well. Showing that there would be a self-imposed censorship that we witnessed in the country just before the war and right after the war.
Well, if you ask the way forward for Sri Lanka, obviously it is complicated and complex. There are many areas which have to be dealt with. But I would start by agreeing with what Shiral said, that this is a crisis of governance that we have faced. As a result, wrong decisions, wrong policies are being implemented and so on. So for me, the first and most fundamental thing to be done is to abolish the executive presidency. I would have liked to see it happening before the next election, but since time is running out, I can't see that happening. But we should work towards.
But were you satisfied when the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, sorry, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution came into play?
To an extent, but the 19th Amendment was stifled midway because originally the intention was to abolish, but it got stopped midway, then created two centers of power, and you know what followed. The government was caught into paralysis. So anyway, my thing is, you abolish the executive presidency. There are umpteen number of reasons you can give to show that this is bad for the country. Our experience of the past has shown that. But the critical factor for governance is there is no decision-making process under an executive presidency. It is an individual who decides. Now, even the current discourse in the country and even here, asking who is the president? Who is going to be a presidential candidate? But the emphasis on policy is minimal. Now, the Westminster system has that very simple thing which says two heads are better than one. The executive presidency has not helped the country, and it is harmful. Now, if you look at the last few days, one is amazed. Now, look, there have been calls for salary increases from all sections. Now, when you want to increase salaries in the health sector, you only give the doctors, and you don't give the rest of the staff. You're calling for a situation. If the government, to the extent they can, said we are going to give across the health sector this such and such salary increases.
And you think the other sectors will just stay silent?
So the other sectors will naturally start asking. So this is a thing that have to be managed. But now you created a crisis in the health sector where the doctors at loggerheads with the rest of the medical staff. Then, see, thereafter, suddenly the government said, we are going to suspend the doctors' salary increase, allowance. Then the doctor said, we are going on strike. Then they said, no, we are going to pay. So now you can see there is decision-making process. You asked about carrots and vegetables. Now, that again is very, very difficult to fathom. Now, one of the aspects of the economic crisis is that we are without foreign exchange. There's a dollar shortage, and we are trying to increase our reserves, and so on and so forth. But what happens, you look at the Ministry of Food. When eggs prices went up or were not available, without providing cheaper poultry food for local poultry farmers, they immediately resorted to importing eggs. Now, carrots, yesterday or today, the minister says, if we import from out, we can sell it for 350 rupees or something like that. So it's topsy-turvy. There is no logic in this. So that is why you need a decision-making process which will help to arrive at the best possible decision. And then, of course, the other is definitely the political culture of the country has to be changed. Now, that is easier said than done, and cannot be done only by the leaders. The people have to become stakeholders in that. For that, there has to be a process by which people also look upon some of the issues in an informed way. That is how democracy flourishes. Now, if you take the Singapore example, which was talked about, where a minister is being held to account because of corruption, there I think it is from the leadership which looks down upon that, and that ministry is called upon to account. But you take the New Zealand example, there was a member of parliament or a shoplifting. Why did she resign? And the newspapers had some, reasons why she was undergoing some trauma and social, sort of psychological difficulties, which
That's
were
a statement.
Yes, which were an explanation for her to act. But she had to step down because the country, the people, did not look at it with favor. That sort of conduct. Now in Sri Lanka,
So are you trying to say that people in Sri Lanka look at corruption in favor?
no,
Yes.
they don't look at corruption in
Certain
favor.
level.
But
To take the school application. How does this urban schools do the admissions, entertain admissions?
yeah, that is corruption in the process of implementation. But if you look at public figures who have been convicted by courts, who are indicted, because when there's an indictment before court, that means the AG has looked at the evidence and that there is some evidence. But people still sort of adore them, put them on a, they don't show their social disapproval. So that's where the people's role is critical.
Right. So Taraka?
Yes, the way forward definitely is a fresh start, and if the Aragale or the struggle taught one lesson, that would be that the current standard institutions would not take us forward in the long run. So therefore, politically as well as personally, I believe that there has to be a change in the systems, in the institutions, as well as in the attitudes. Because it is a matter where we insist that our leaders be honest, that corruption be eradicated. There is a very common thought saying, some people say you can't eradicate corruption fully. No, you must push for that. Because if you start by saying you can't eradicate corruption fully, then you're not going to get anywhere. This is what I believe personally. So this must start at the political party level, at the national leadership level, at the institutional level, also at personal level, as both these gentlemen, Mr. Yusuf and Mr. Laktilaka, pointed out. We condone corruption. As a nation, we have not looked down upon corruption. When it comes to an election, a member of parliament or a parliamentary hopeful or a former minister who has amassed wealth through questionable means comes and distributes various goodie bags and bundle up the votes. We have seen this example for so many decades in Sri Lanka. So there's positive developments that have come. Election spending curtailment, their laws have been introduced, though there are flaws, the positive changes are there, but these systems must change. But system change cannot be an empty word. It has to be led from the top. So I feel as a nation to go forward, it may be us who gets into power, it may be some other person who gets into power, but either way, if we are to get away from this deep black hole, as we call it, we need fresh thinking, we need fresh ideology, and we need to, as a nation, not as leaders alone, but as a nation, as citizenry, we need to look forward to doing things right and doing the right thing.
Right. Thank you very much, Attorney at Law Tariq Nandakar. Thank you very much, Attorney at Law Shirasa Laktilaka, for joining us this evening on Face the Nation, representing the United Republic Front. Attorney at Law James J. Bandar, representing the NPP. Attorney at Law Tariq Nandakar, representing the SJB, as well as Attorney at Law Javed Yusuf. And thank you very much, Niresh, for joining us this evening on the show. Niresh is the Consultant English News Director at Newsfirst. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. Life without liberty is like a body without spirit. Take care and good night.